By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the difference between procedure-oriented and object-oriented programming. Guys, does anyone see my glasses?
Murray.
Yeah. They're on your head.
So they are. Hey guys, how are you?
Good, thanks, and you?
Well, I'm good, thanks. Now today, I'm going to introduce you to object-oriented programming. Now, to help you understand the difference between object-oriented programming and procedure-oriented programming, let's take Java. Java is an object-oriented programming language, whereas previously, software development was done in a procedure-oriented fashion. With procedure-oriented software development, analysts and programmers analyzed, designed, and wrote their programs by focusing on the individual tasks the program had to perform. Now, software is developed using object-oriented analysis, design, and implementation. In other words, the developer focuses on the objects or things that the program can use to accomplish its goal.
I'm still not sure I understand the difference.
Okay, think of it like this. Let's say you've got an assignment to do at school. Now, using a procedure-oriented approach, you'd probably make a list of all the tasks you have to do, and it might look something like this. So, number 1, you'd look for information on the internet. Number 2, you'd write the assignment using this information that you'd found. Number 3, check the assignment for spelling and grammar errors. Number 4, type the assignment neatly. And number 5, add a front page, pictures, diagrams, etc., whatever you needed. Then you would go ahead and carry out each task one by one. Whereas if you were using an object-oriented approach, instead of focusing on the tasks, you would use objects, or in this case, people, to help you carry out your tasks. So, for example, you could ask a friend who has access to the internet to be the researcher. He would have to go and find all the information. Then, another friend could be the writer. He or she would write the text for the assignment. Someone who's good with English would check the spelling and the grammar. Let's call him the editor. And then another friend with a computer would type up your assignment neatly. And then someone who's good at art, well, they would draw the diagrams, design the front page, and generally make your assignment look good. Let's call him your artist.
So instead of doing it all myself, I would look for someone to help me.
That's right. It'd be your job to find people with the right abilities, such as the typist, get the resources, such as the internet, and manage their efforts.
So what if I don't have a friend who's a good editor, a researcher, or anything like that?
How would it feel if there were factories that made each of the type of people that you needed? Then all you would have to do is ask the factory to make one of those people that you need.
That would be great.
Well, that's how it is with object-oriented programming. And we call the factories for making objects classes. So, when we need a particular kind of object, we just ask the factory to make us one. And that's the beautiful thing about object-oriented programming, is that we can use the classes created by other developers. And Java has a huge library of classes for us to use. Also, when we need a new type of object that's not in the library, well, we can just create our own class ourselves.
What are objects and programs like? Obviously, they're not people.
Objects can take on many forms. They can represent objects in the real world. For example, if we were writing a program for a school, there might well be objects that model the learners and the teachers at the school. Now, if we were writing a program with a graphical user interface, we would have objects such as buttons, text boxes, and labels. Now, the learner object would not be a visible object like the buttons, but would rather exist in the computer's memory. For example, let's look at the program you wrote in the previous lesson. Here's a statement inside the method. This statement uses an object called out.
What sort of object is out?
Well, it's an invisible object that represents the standard output of the program. Now, in the JGrasp IDE, the standard output is through the Run IO window. But if you use the command prompt to write a program, the standard output would be through the command prompt window. So the out object knows how to take objects and numbers and send them as text to whatever destination it's linked to.
It's a bit like how a researcher would know where to find information on the internet.
Exactly. We call knowing how to do something a behavior of an object. So all objects come from the same factory or class, behave in the same way. When we write a class, we define the behavior that the objects of that class must have by writing methods. It's the same as telling a researcher what information you need and asking him to find it. We also have to ask the objects in our programs to do certain tasks. And we do this by giving the object's name, followed by a dot, followed by the name of the method, followed by the numbers or objects it needs to perform its task contained in round brackets.
Ah, so print line is the name of a method.
That's right.
And the text in the double quotes and in the brackets is what we are asking the out object to send to the run IO window.
Precisely. And we call that the parameter of the method. So in this case, the parameter is some text enclosed in double quotes. And we call the text in double quotes a string. And double quotes, guys, are very important. Let's say you wanted to print the word main. The double quotes tells the compiler to print the actual letters M-A-I-N and not the method main.
So an object is just a thing that has a whole lot of methods.
Not quite. Besides having behavior, an object also has attributes. For example, an object that represents a learner in our school program would have attributes like a name, a date of birth, the grade the learner's in, the home telephone number, and so on. The attributes of a button in a graphical user interface are, for example, the position of the button in the window, the size of the button, and the caption of the button. But we will talk about the attributes of objects in more detail later. So, we know that out is an object, print line is a method, and the message "Good day to you, Morwa" is a string, but it's also the parameter of the method.
What is a system?
The word system is the name of a class that Java provides for us. As I've already said, Java has a large library of classes that we can use in our programs, and they're all part of that JDK that we downloaded. Remember, the source code for a Java program consists of one or more classes, and there can be no code or data that is outside of a class. Now that's why we had to put our main method, remember our main method? We had to put that inside the greetings class. In the same way, the object out must also be inside a class. Java has put it in the system class, which contains other useful methods and objects to access system resources. Now, the dot between system and out means get the out object in the system class, and the dot between out and print line means tell the out object to perform its print line method.
Didn't you say we had to create the objects we want to use?
Normally we do. However, the system.out object is created by the Java virtual machine when our program starts to run. So guys, you've written your very first program and you made sure that the syntax was correct.
So that means the program follows the rule of the language.
Right! Then you compiled your first program and ran it. And we took a long look at the code and we learned a little bit about object-oriented programming. So, it's now time to summarize, guys. Object-oriented software development focuses on the objects needed to accomplish the program's goal. A class is like a factory that we use to make objects. As well as having attributes, an object has behavior, which is given by methods. We call a method by giving the object's name, followed by the method's name, followed by any parameters that are needed. The object name and method name are separated by a dot, and the parameters are enclosed in round brackets. The system.out object represents the standard output of a program. It has a method, print line, which sends a text version of a number or an object to the standard output. Now we come to today's task, guys. Imagine you run a home business that bakes and sells biscuits. A. Describe a procedure-oriented way of running this business. B. describe an object-oriented way of running this business. Guys, I'm very sad. Time to say goodbye, man. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Murray. It's been great, hey?
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.